NFL April 20, 2018 12:16 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time April 20, 2018 12:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. The player your favorite NFL team drafted turned out to be awful. And it looks even worse when you see who they could have gotten instead. Use left or right buttons to navigate. Swipe left or right to navigate. No team is immune to whiffing on many NFL draft selections and watching several players turn into colossal busts. The real insult, however, comes when you start thinking what might have been for your favorite franchise had it picked a great player who was still on the board. Looking back at all 32 teams' draft history, here are the picks they probably wish they could go back and do all over. Sign up to the entire 2018 NFL Live in Canada on DAZN. SN illustration Getty Images. The pick, QB Kelly Stouffer, number 6 overall in 1987. The miss, CB Rod Woodson, number 10 overall to Steelers. Stouffer was a terrible pick for the team in St. Louis, both as an unpleasant surprise reach and subsequent holdout who ended up being traded to Seattle a year later. The Cardinals should have gone best player available and chosen Woodson. He was first-team All-Pro 5 times in Pittsburgh and went on to play 17 NFLs. He is third all-time in interceptions, 71, and had a record 12 int returns for TDs. The Cardinals' worst draft pick that actually played for them was defensive end Andre Wadsworth, number 3 overall in 1998, taken third overall and one pick ahead of another Hall of Fame-bound defensive back named Woodson, Charles. SN illustration Getty Images. The pick, pound Andre Bruce, number 1 overall in 1988. The miss, WR Tim Brown, number 6 overall to Raiders. Andre Bruce edges out Bruce Pickens, number 3 overall in 1991 as the biggest draft bust in Falcons history. It hurts a little more with Bruce, because many thought the team was giving plenty of consideration to taking Brown, fresh off his spectacular Heisman winning at Notre Dame. While Bruce flamed out as a little-used player over 4s in Atlanta, Brown immediately exploded with the Raiders as a dynamic return man. He went on to play 16s in Los Angeles and Oakland as one of the game's most reliable all-around receivers. He got his well-deserved place in Canton in 2015. SN illustration Getty Images. The pick, WR Mark Clayton, number 22 overall in 2005. The miss, WR Roddy White, number 27 overall to Falcons. The Ravens haven't had too many notable misses in the Ozzie Newsome era in any round. Although wide receiver Travis Taylor, number 10 in 2000, and quarterback Kyle Bowler, number 19 in 2003 may stand out as bigger busts, Clayton is more frustrating knowing the next player taken at the same position. In Atlanta, White was one of the league's most prolific and reliable receivers over the past 11s. Clayton's best was 67 yards, 939 yards and 5 TDs. White averaged 73, 988 and 6 and enjoyed 4 Pro Bowls. SN illustration Getty Images. The pick, T. Mike Williams, number 4 overall in 2002. The miss, T. Bryant McKinney, number 7 overall to Vikings. Williams edges out linebacker Tom Cousino, the team's first overall pick in 1979, as Buffalo's worst selection of all time. McKinney was solid 12-season player for the Vikings and Ravens, getting to 1 Pro Bowl. That was enough to make him a whole lot better at locking down left tackle than Williams. Many scouts saw McKinney as being much better before the draft. The Bills got a sluggish prospect who couldn't work at right tackle, inside or even on defense. 2 years later, they were fortunate to land Jason Peters as an undrafted free agent to soften the blow. SN illustration Getty Images. The pick, RB Tim B. Akabutuka, number 8 overall in 1996. The miss, RB Eddie George, number 14 overall to Oilers. The Panthers were right to find their workhorse in the game. They should have looked more to Ohio State than Michigan, however. B. Akabutuka spoiled the Buckeyes perfect by rushing for 313 yards, while George, the 95 Heisman winner, was held to 104 by the Wolverines. B. Akabutuka's stock shot up as a potentially more explosive back, but George had more staying power. In Carolina, B. Akabutuka struggled through injuries, starting only 35 games in 6 seasons, and totaling 2,530 career rushing yards. In Houston and Nashville, George started by reeling off 5 consecutive 1,200-yard-plus as a 4-time Pro Bowl workhorse. Sign up to the entire 2018 NFL Live in Canada on DAZN. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, RB Curtis Ennis, number 5 overall in 1998 The miss, RB Fred Taylor, number 9 overall to Jaguars Ennis is the biggest draft bust in Bears history, as the Penn State product lasted only 3 shorts in the NFL after a rookie holdout, ending it as a glorified back. Meanwhile, Taylor, despite carrying the unfair nickname Fragile Fred, became a terrific game-breaking back in Jacksonville. He was a lot more of what Chicago wanted to carry the backfield tradition of Gale Sayers and Walter Payton. Taylor also lasted 13 years, staying productive into his 30s before finishing his career in New England. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Jack Thompson, number 3 overall in 1979 The miss, DT Dan Hampton, number 4 overall to Bears The 79 draft was doubly painful for the Bengals. They took both Thompson and running back Charles Alexander, both major disappointments, one pick before future Pro Football Hall of Famers. After Alexander, it was tight end Kellen Winslow going to the Chargers. Hailing from the same college as all-time draft bust Ryan Leaf, Washington State, Thompson didn't do much in Cincinnati before he moved on to Tampa Bay. Hampton, meanwhile, became a canton-bound animal in Chicago, wreaking havoc on inside and outside blockers for dozens. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, RB William Green, number 16 overall in 2002 The miss, Ed Reed, number 24 overall to Ravens to Browns have had a ton of bad draft picks since their 1999 reboot, led by quarterback Tim Couch that year. Green got off to a good start 3 years later, showing the feature-back promise he had at Boston College, but issues on and off the field ended his stint in Cleveland after less than 4s. Free safety was a considerable position of need for the Browns in 2002, and by passing on Reed, they allowed rival Baltimore to land a longtime premier playmaker. While Reed will have his bust in Canton, Green goes down as an all-out bust and a source of major regret. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, Pound Greg Ellis, number 8 overall in 1998 The miss, WR Randy Moss, number 21 overall to Vikings Jerry Jones still can't get over this one, and he has apologized many times to Moss about passing on him. Moss took Dallas snub as motivation to feast immediately on the Cowboys on Thanksgiving and all other occasions. Jones corrected this a little by not making the same mistake on Dez Bryant, getting him number 24 overall 12 years later. But after the twilight of the original playmaker, Michael Irvin, it would have been nice to stack on a future Hall of Famer that took it to another level with his size and speed. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Tim Tebow, number 25 overall in 2010 The miss, DB Devin McCourty, number 27 overall to Patriots The Broncos have done a good job of avoiding major landmines, given their worst ever pick was throwing away a third-rounder on running back Morris Claret in 2005. 5 years later, they failed to forget that reaching for a big-name college star with limited pro prospects is a huge mistake. Sure, there was a little spurt of Tebow mania, but not enough to erase a terrible pick for the long term. The much better selection would have McCourty, the versatile and now elite defensive back, a need for Denver's defense at the time. Picking him also would have kept such a player away from the AFC rival Patriots. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, WR Charles Rogers, number 2 overall in 2003 The miss, WR Andre Johnson, number 3 overall to Texans Detroit went down the road to East Lansing to try to find its game-breaking receiver. It should have gone far southeast to Miami. It was a hard, fast crash for Rogers, thanks to multiple broken collarbones and violations of the NFL's substance abuse policy. He played in only 15 games over threes, catching only 36 career passes. Meanwhile, Johnson became Houston's go-to wideout right away and stayed that way for 12s. He made 7 Pro Bowls as the consummate, non-diva pro and is headed for the Hall of Fame. Dishonorable mention goes to taking another bust wide receiver, Mike Williams, number 10 overall in 2005, one pick the head of linebacker and pass rusher extraordinaire DeMarcus Ware. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, Tony Mandavich, number 2 overall in 1989 The miss, RB Barry Sanders, number 3 overall to Lions Mandavich is easily the Packers' worst ever draft pick and among the biggest busts for any team. It becomes especially painful to know he was taken after one Hall of Famer, quarterback Troy Aikman, and right before 3 others, Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas and Deion Sanders. Any of those 3 would have been great, but imagine Sanders playing with Brett Favre instead of as a rival Lion who shared MVP honors with him in '97. Green Bay could have used a stud runner to go with Favre, and it could have changed its destiny into more of a dynasty. It also was pretty bad in 1981 when the Packers took quarterback Rich Campbell, number 6 overall. That came 2 spots ahead of the 49ers taking Hall of Fame, game-changing defensive back Ronnie Lott. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB David Carr, number 1 overall in 2002 The miss, to Julius Peppers, number 2 overall to Panthers The Texans were launching in 2002, and the playbook says an expansion team needs to think franchise quarterback first. Houston should have thrown that out the window, going for the enduring pass rusher rather than the soon-to-be battered passer. The Texans coach then, Dom Capers, later got to work with a rejuvenated Peppers at outside linebacker for the Packers, but it would have been nice to collaborate earlier. Carr was sacked 144 times total in his 2 worsts. He was a teammate of Peppers in Carolina in 2007 and at least lasted into his 30s as a backup QB for the Giants. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB John Elway, number 1 overall in 1983 The miss, QB Dan Marino, number 27 overall to Dolphins There was nothing wrong about the deciding Elway was the best player in a loaded 83 draft. It was the fact the Colts, led by Ernie Accorsi, lost their huge gamble in thinking Elway wanted to play in Baltimore for head coach Frank Kush. Using the threat of opting for baseball and the Yankees as some leverage, Elway got traded to Denver after the draft. But in retrospect, the Colts should have listened to legend Johnny Unitas' strong suggestion to just take Marino instead. Not landing either Elway or Marino came right before the team moved to Indianapolis and struggled to find any good QB play for a long time, low-lighted by busting on Jeff George 7 years later. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Blaine Gabbert, number 10 overall in 2011 The miss, to JJ Watt, number 11 overall to Texans So much as it's fun to say the Jaguars drafted a punter, Brian Anger, in the 3rd round, 5 picks before the Seahawks nabbed Russell Wilson in 2012, Wilson wasn't an option for Jacksonville there because it had just invested a high first-rounder on Gabbert a year earlier. That was the real mistake. The Jaguars have been looking for a top-flight pass rush for severals. Regardless if Watt didn't appear to be a good fit for a 4-3 team at the time, almost every team should regret not taking him. Every team that selected in the top 11 in 2011 landed a future Pro Bowler, except the Titans and Jaguars. As a bonus, taking Watt also would have kept him from helping Houston get to the playoffs in recent years. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Todd Blackledge, number 7 overall in 1983 The miss, QB Dan Marino, number 27 overall to Dolphins Here we go again. After Elway was rightly the number 1 quarterback taken in 83 by albeit the wrong team, it was ridiculous that 3 more QBs came off the board before Marino. Blackledge is a fine foodie and good guy on college football broadcasts now, but as a Penn State product in the NFL, he was the Chiefs' worst ever pick. It was only enhanced by the fact that he went a whole 20 picks ahead of Marino, the better prospect from down the road at Pittsburgh. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Ryan Leaf, number 2 overall in 1998 The miss, CB Charles Woodson, number 4 overall to Raiders The Chargers thought they smelled all roses with Leaf after Peyton Manning, given his big arm and classic frame. But they should have taken a defensive player who helped Michigan win that same Rose Bowl over Washington State, with both a Heisman Trophy and national championship to show for it. As Leaf turned out to be the biggest draft bust ever, anybody would have been great. But it doesn't get any worse than missing out on Woodson, who went to the rival Raiders and continued his Hall of Fame ways in the NFL through the 2015. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, RB Lawrence Phillips, number 6 overall in 1996 The miss, ILB Ray Lewis, number 26 overall to Ravens Phillips had a troubled, tragic life that contributed to him disappointing as a high first-round running back. The Rams should have gone with a completely different position. Their defense was terrible in 1995, and they could have used a dominant middle linebacker. A lot of teams whiffed on not taking Lewis, but it was especially glaring for then St. Louis to ignore a need in favor of Phillips. Later in the round, the Rams took the wrong wide receiver at number 18, Eddie Kennison. The Colts took future Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison 1 pick later. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, W.R. Ted Ginn Jr., number 9 overall in 2007 The miss, CB Darrell Revis, number 14 overall to Jets. Ginn eventually found some success as a pure speed receiver, but there's no way he should have been such a high pick. Miami would go on to finish 1-15 at under coach Cam Cameron, and thinking Gin's pass catching and return skills were that great out of Ohio State was costly. Revis, a shutdown corner from Dan Marino's alma mater at Pitt, ended up tormenting them in the division as both a Jet and a Patriot. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, De Demetrius Underwood, number 29 overall in 1999 The miss, De Patrick Kearney, number 30 overall to Falcons Underwood carried a lot of baggage from his time at Michigan State, hardly seeing the field late in his college career. He never played a down for the Vikings, as the young man's off-field troubles never went away. At the same position one pick later was Kearney, a multiple Pro Bowl edge pass rusher with both Atlanta and Seattle. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Tony Eason, number 15 overall in 1983 The miss, QB Dan Marino, number 27 overall to Dolphins If you didn't take John Elway, Jim Kelly and Marino as your first-round QB in '83, you should have real regrets. Put the Patriots in the same club as the Chiefs. Eason wasn't as bad as Todd Blackledge, but he wasn't even as good as Ken O'Brien. He did play in a Super Bowl against the 1985 Bears, but guess which QB led the only defeat of that team? That, Marino, in Miami on a Monday night. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, K. Russell Erxleben, number 11 overall in 1979 The miss, T. Kellen Winslow, number 13 overall to Chargers Erleben still lingers as the Saints' worst draft decision and monumental bust. Really, they could have taken anybody other than a kicker who was seen more as a punter in the first round and it would have been better. They did have good tight end production in '78, but Winslow would have given them a Hall of Fame receiver to boost a shaky overall passing game. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, RB Ron Dayne, number 11 overall in 2000 The miss, RB Sean Alexander, number 19 overall to Seahawks Through the years, with GMs such as George Young and Jerry Reese, the Giants have made mostly good draft decisions. Dayne was drafted this highly after winning the Heisman and setting the college career rushing record at Wisconsin. He had a short stint as the Thunder to Tiki Barber's Lightning, but Big Blue would have rolled a lot more by taking Alexander out of the Crimson Tide. Alexander had 5 monsters in Seattle, including 1,880 yards rushing and 27 TDs in his 2005 MVP. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, WR Johnny Lamb Jones, number 2 overall in 1980 The miss, T. Anthony Munoz, number 3 overall to Bengals Jones was a speed demon whom the Jets thought would be a great complement to their best receiver, Wesley Walker, when that player Altoon came only 5 years later in the first round. Jones made a few big plays in fives, but he never could make the transition from Texas track star to world-class wideout. Meanwhile, Munoz dominated everyone he faced as a blocker through his brilliant career in Cincinnati. The Hall of Famer is regarded as the best offensive lineman to ever play in the NFL. No biggie, right? In 1995, they did something similar in taking tight end Kyle Brady at number 9 overall, 3 spots ahead of Warren Sapp. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Jam Marcus Russell, number 1 overall in 2007 The miss, WR Calvin Johnson, number 2 overall to Lions The Raiders once had a draft reputation of being enamored with measurables. They were drawn to Russell by his immense size and a big arm to match. They should have gone instead for the size, great hands and speed of Megatron. Russell never put in the work to harness his physical tools, while Johnson, the true athletic freak, overwhelmed opponents all the way through his final NFL in 2015. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, DeMike Mamula, number 7 overall in 1995 The miss, DT Warren Sapp, number 12 overall to Buccaneers Mamula blew up at the NFL Combine as a workout warrior before the draft, and his stock had a meteoric rise. Many teams bought into him becoming an unstoppable athletic pass rusher. They were all wrong. It especially hurts Philadelphia because a premier interior defensive lineman in Sapp was still on the board. The Eagles had a couple of other notable whiffs in the first round, taking wide receiver Freddie Mitchell instead of Reggie Wayne in '01 and taking defensive end Jerome McDougal 1 spot ahead of Troy Polamalu in '03. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, DT Gabe Rivera, number 21 overall in 1983 The miss, QB Dan Marino, number 27 overall to Dolphins It took until Ben Roethlisberger in 2004 for the Steelers to find their next best QB after Terry Bradshaw. But they could have had an Andrew Luck Peyton Manning situation if they had a little more foresight. After struggling to rush the passer inside as a rookie, tragedy struck Rivera in the form of a driving accident that left him paralyzed. Regardless of whom Pittsburgh had taken, not taking the Pitt products Marino to become Bradshaw's successor wasn't a good call. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, QB Giovanni Camartesi, number 65 overall in 2000 The miss, QB Tom Brady, number 199 overall to Patriots There were 6 quarterbacks taken before Brady in the 2000 draft until New England pulled the trigger in the 6th round. While every team past and didn't have any idea that Brady would turn into the greatest quarterback of all time, this move by the Niners looks most embarrassing. Brady, a Bay Area native who worships Joe Montana, should have gotten a chance from San Francisco as an underrated prospect from Michigan. Instead, the team went for a kid from the QB hotbed, Hofstra. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, OLB Aaron Curry, number 9 overall in 2009 The miss, OLB Clay Matthews, number 26 overall to Packers Curry fell well short of his expectations as a can't-miss pass rusher and impact playmaker coming out of an exceptional final at Wake Forest. He lasted only 3 humdrums in Seattle, then didn't do much more with Oakland. It's too bad Pete Carroll was 1 year away from being the Seahawks head coach, because he probably would have recommended Matthews. Matthews had the pedigree with his family in USC, and he keeps living up to that with Green Bay. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, Mark Barron, number 7 overall in 2012 The miss, ILB Luke Kuechly, number 9 to Panthers The Buccaneers have made many regrettable picks on defense over the years. This recent whiff should begin to sting a little bit more. Barron, out of Alabama, was seen as a playmaking thumper with the potential of becoming the next John Lynch. But at the same time, Tampa Bay really needed a stud middle linebacker and was attached to taking Kuechly in several mock drafts. Instead, Barron had one semi-decent before he became trade bait while Kuechly dominates for the Bucs division rivals in Carolina. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, CB Andre Woolfolk, number 28 overall in 2003 The miss, CB Nnamdi Asomugha, number 31 overall to Raiders The way Adam Jones crashed and burned as Pac-Man makes him the Oilers' Titans' worst ever pick, but in terms of production, no first-round defensive back gave them more disappointment than Woolfolk. Tennessee was right to take a corner at this spot of that draft, but totally whiffed by not making him Asomugha, who had several good shutdowns in Oakland. SN illustration Getty Images The pick, CB Carlos Rogers, number 9 overall in 2005 The miss, QB Aaron Rodgers, number 24 overall to Packers The Redskins needed a quarterback in this draft, evidenced by them taking Jason Campbell a pick after Rodgers at no. 25. After Alex Smith went number 1 overall to the 49ers, Rodgers had a well-documented slip to Green Bay, which could afford to stash him behind Brett Favre for threes. Of all the teams, Washington had no good reason to let Rodgers slide. Sure, Rodgers might have been messed up by starting as a rookie and going through all the different offenses Campbell did, but now no one will ever know. Rodgers turned into a pretty good corner, but that really wasn't until he signed with the 49ers as a free agent in 2011. In some form, whether using number 9 or working a deal with their other pick, the Redskins whiffed by not ending up with Rodgers.